All right, welcome everybody around the world. Welcome to all my subscribers as well. So, I just want to say a few things first. Um, I please don't leave any derogatory comments about Pope Francis or Catholicism here. I'm going to be peace loving and universal and put aside my own theological beliefs for this video. So, as everybody probably knows, it was announced today in the news that Pope Francis died last night. What was shocking to me is that I went to bed last night and just woke up a few hours ago from most likely the most terrifying and demonic dream that I've ever had. And this dream took place in what looked like the Vatican City. We're in a great cathedral, and I cannot wait to describe the dream because after enduring this nightmare for hours, what seemed like hours, it was just never ending. It just kept going and going. I woke up, got ready to go to work, put on the news like I usually do in the morning, and the first thing you hear on the news is that Pope Francis passed away last night. That shocked me because the elements of this dream and where it took place and in the dream was like it was the Vatican. And wait to hear the dream. This cannot be a coincidence. It had to be a sign. What it means, I don't know for sure, but I'm just going to relay the dream. This was absolutely horrifying. So even though I'm not Catholic, I'm not going to sit here and cast any judgment on Pope Francis or on Catholicism whatsoever. Like I said, I'm going to be peace loving in this and just relay what took place in the dream. And it's going to be up for us to, you know, think what we think and, what we get from the dream. So what happened last night in my dream was that me and countless other people were in this great, grand, super ornate place like a cathedral. It was definitely a church or a church-based building and buildings. And yeah, at the time, I wasn't thinking, like during the dream, oh, I'm in the Vatican. But it was not like a regular Christian church. This was a super ornate, old style, like a giant cathedral. There was lots of connected buildings. And welcome, man. Good to see you. So this is basically what happened. Um, I'm trying to, and I struggled to after I woke up to remember some more of the elements of the dream, but I'll just relay what I can remember vividly. So, me and countless other people, hundreds, if not thousands of people, were in this great ornate building that was like a cathedral, huge tall ceilings, very ornate, like old style, like from hundreds of years ago or so. It wasn't like a modern building at all. And long story short, what happened was there were waves of what could only be described as demons attacking the place and attacking the people within the place. They weren't attacking the structure, they were attacking the people. It was extremely demonic in nature. These were definitely demons. And when you hear some of the description of the things that were taking place, you'll understand and agree. But I, unfortunately, I can't remember what. There are so many different waves of these monster demon things attacking, and each wave kind of brought a different type of creature or monster or demon. I can't remember what all of the different monsters and demons looked like. Unfortunately, maybe that's for the better. Maybe I don't want to remember them, but I do remember some of them. And it's just a very bizarre experience, very, very horrifying. I've had a lot of end days dreams since I was a little kid, and they can be very horrifying as well. But I think this dream last night really, really um, it takes the cake. It's the number one most horrific dream I've ever had, most nightmarish, most demonic. So all these people, me and all these people I don't know, were in this great grand building, which seems like the Vatican or something like the Vatican, like a cathedral. Again, I wasn't thinking it was the Vatican during the dream, but it's definitely a massive old style ornate cathedral. And then the first wave of demonic creatures started attacking. These weren't normal animals. They were not aliens. They were monstrous demonic creatures. And it the general overview of how the dream went, again, it felt like it was taking place over hours and hours. It felt like it would never end. It was just one wave of attack after the other, and each wave of attack brought new types of demons. So one of the first bunch of attacks, I can't remember what the demons looked like, but I remember the chaos, everybody inside, including me, myself, everybody panicking, running. The level of realism to this dream was incredible because it was like I was really there. The super ornate interior of these buildings was so absolutely lifelike. Um, as with most of my dreams, I had all the senses. You could feel things when you touched them, and everything. It was absolutely dead real. And when all these demons were coming in, they would be coming in from every direction, every door, any open window, and stuff like that there. And maybe even breaking through windows, I'm not sure. But the demons, none of them were massive and huge, but when they would break into the place, they were just running around, attacking people, and everybody's screaming and running, and the fear inside is like you have to run for your life, but the feeling that there's nowhere to hide because, like, no matter where you went, there was just dozens and dozens of people trying to get away. So there's nowhere that you could sneak off to and run away and hide in. And there's this repeated multiple waves of these demons attacking like this. They would come in one big group attack, and then it would fizzle down for a short moment, and then there would be another attack with usually different looking demons. One scene that I do vividly remember, and this one was very bizarre, and really strikes home with the demonic element, is that for one of the later waves of attacks, the way the demons manifested or what they looked like was very strange because there were either decorative, like ornamental, like stone plants, like part of the decoration, like ivy or whatever it might be, like they're actually carved from stone within the building structure. And again, it had very tall ceilings, one of these buildings in particular. And there may have been some real plants there as well, I'm not sure. But what I saw was when this next wave of attack started, uh, the plants started to grow. So some of them could have been stone and actually coming to life, or just real plants, like decorative plants, and they started to come to life. And I just remember looking up and seeing what looked like giant, like spiked, barbed vines, like massive, thick, woody vines with like spikes. They just looked horrifying. They were just growing rapidly and like reaching out like tentacles and grabbing the people. Whereas before, like the demons that were coming in were like they had legs and arms, and they were like running in and jumping at people and everything, and you couldn't escape. But in one of these later waves of attacks, it just went to that strange demonic level where things started growing out of the walls that were plant-like and attacking the people. It was like almost every form of demon was attacking the people here, and there was so much chaos trying to run away and escape. Another scene that I remember vividly is at one point I ran down this like old stone staircase, and when I got down to the bottom of it, I saw a little stone, what looked like a pump room with like little wooden doors. I think they were even blue, if I remember. Yep, they were blue. And the little whatever, well, I don't know what was inside of it because I didn't open it. I didn't have time, but I assumed it looked like a little pump room, like there might have been a little water pump inside there, and it looked big enough to just hide inside. Um, but because of the constant churning nature, it was this nonstop adrenaline. All you were doing, all everybody was doing nonstop was screaming, running, trying to escape these demons of various forms that were coming in. So I and a bunch of people got down to the bottom of the staircase. I looked at this little pump room thing and I thought to myself, I have a choice to go in here and hide. But I told myself at the time, that's pointless. And because no matter where I or anybody else was hiding, the demons would just find them, and because they're just going everywhere. Um, that was just another element of realism. Like I even chose not to go in there because I'd be cornered in this little pump room. And another wave of demons that came afterwards is that there were these, they weren't regular people, like demonic people showed up, very powerful. You could sense the negative, like evil energy that these people had. And at this point here, they were on the outside of the building, and people were announcing there's people out there with these huge dogs. So, and again, these weren't normal dogs. These were like hellhounds of sorts, big, ferocious dogs. And I remember hearing the people saying they're on the outside. So you hear all the people outside the building screaming because the evil demonic people with the dogs, they were setting the dogs loose on the people and they were getting attacked. I mean, there is just death everywhere. Like, it was so horrifically terrifying, this dream. Just a nonstop roller coaster. It never relented. Um, and I remember at that point there being terrified of these ferocious dogs. You could hear them. I got glimpses of them through the window. They kind of looked like one that I saw looked like this really, really large black dog, kind of like a Doberman style, but very, very muscular and beefy. Very, very ferocious and like killer instinct type dogs. And eventually they busted in through the doors and started going after the people. I mean, it was just one wave of demonic attack after the other, and there was like nowhere to escape. I think it's possible that the demonic vine things, like the demonic plant, whatever they are, that were growing from the walls and capturing people, is because in the first waves of attacks, people were probably scaling, and they were scaling the interior of the building, trying to get up to little balconies that might be in there. You're just climbing up the wall to get away, because at first the demons were on foot, the first types of demons. So I think this demonic attack, which obviously had to come from Satan himself, he was just finding other ways to get at the people. So then it came to the point with these dogs. So there was another scene that I vividly remember where there was a little reprieve, if that's the right word, where it died down for a bit. Again, these things came in waves of attacks. It was like wave one, then wave two, then wave three. And in between each wave, there's a short period of time, maybe seconds or minutes at the most. But during those reprieve minutes, everybody's still panicked and in absolute chaos and screaming. I mean, there's dead people everywhere. People are like mortified, horrified, terrified. They don't know where to go. Most people are afraid to go outside of the buildings because the things are coming in from outside. But we ended up in this one room, me and a whole pile of people. I have no clue who they are. And we're in this small room, like the size of a bedroom. It could have been like a staff changing room for like the Cardinals or whatever, something like that. But for whatever reason, there were lots of shoes everywhere. And I didn't think about this during the dream, but when I woke up, I was like, oh, maybe there's a place in the Vatican or in one of those type of places where people have to take their shoes off before a service or a prayer, or to go into a prayer room or something. But there were shoes everywhere. And at the time, I remember I was trying to find um, either my shoes or a pair of shoes to wear because I had lost my shoes. Because you're running around so frantically, your shoes are going to come off. And I was even looking for socks because my socks had ended up coming off. So while we were in that small room, we began to hear the panic again, like there's another wave of attack. So everybody who was in the room was scrambling, grabbing shoes, putting shoes on, and getting out and running away. And at that point there, I just so vividly remember looking around for a pair of shoes that would fit my feet, that weren't too big and would fall off because you need to run, and trying to find socks to put on. Socks so your shoes don't just slip right off. Putting that on and getting outside. I think that happened around the time when the demonic dogs started attacking. Um, but this dream, like I said, it felt like it went on for hours and hours. And it's just so bizarre because I've never had a dream like this. And one of the final scenes, and this is the most poignant thing. I mean, when I woke up, like I said, I found out that Pope Francis had died. I turned on the news like I do. When I wake up every day, I make a cup of coffee and I play the news on YouTube. And the first instant thing I heard when I turned on the news was Pope Francis died. And I was like, there is no way. Because this final scene that I vividly remember was we are still in that ornate old cathedral type building. And we're running around everywhere in every direction nonstop the whole time, right? Like in all different places, rooms, sections of the building, and everything. And before I busted out through the doors with a whole pile of other random people to escape outside, where I found the chaos was still going on, before I did that, I walked down this stone staircase, and there is this at a lower level. So like I'm about here, and at about this level here is the top of a door. It's really old style, like big ornate church cathedral style door. Could have been hundreds or 1,000 years old, whatever. But a really old style, big, powerful door. I think it looked like metal or something. And the vibe I got then was that this was like some type of sanctum or like holy room type thing. And there was a church figure in there, like either a pope, a cardinal, a bishop, somebody. There was a person of spiritual importance and power inside the room, actively rebuking a demon. And we know in Catholicism they use Latin for stuff like that, for exorcisms. I couldn't discern what this person was saying, but the person was inside this room because the door had like this little grill on it with like metal bars. I didn't get the chance to look in there through it, nor would I want to, based on everything that was going on around me. Um, but just to set the scene a little bit more, like I'm trying to run away and escape, have no clue where I should go in this building. This is just before I ended up going outside through these giant wooden doors to the street area, to the like it looked like cobbled old streets or whatever. But right before I got outside, I went down this little staircase a bit, and like I said, there's that big heavy door just beneath me. I could see the front of the door. If I walked down further down the stairs, I'd be at the door itself. There was other people around, and there were some other church type figures. I don't know their position: cardinals, bishops, preachers, whatever. Some of them were on the outside of the door, like either standing guard or they were afraid to go in, but they wanted to go in. They weren't just regular common folk like we were. And all I could hear inside this room, I couldn't see inside of it because I didn't want to look in there, was this mega demonic voice, like creature, maybe even Satan himself, like some mega demon was inside of there. You could hear it growling, making noises, and speaking in whatever demonic language it was. And there was some church figure in there, I don't know who, rebuking it and like doing some type of exorcism, like, making this great speech, with all these powerful words against it. And I could hear the fear in the man's voice, the guy doing the speaking, because he was facing off with, it seemed like he was facing face to face off with this mega demon that was inside of there. And that mega demon, I'm calling it a mega demon because the vibe I got was that this was probably the biggest and worst demon that was attacking her at the cathedral. And the fact that it was in like this, what felt like a real holy, special place, um, fits in line with that. Like if this was Satan himself or some archdemon, he probably would have gone to like this real special and holy place and attacked the most holy people or tried to desecrate this most holy place. But that's what was going on there. And I remember looking out the door. I could still see the door in my mind too, that vivid and fresh, because it was just a couple hours ago. And hearing that like spiritual like battle, that exorcism battle going on inside of there. But anyways, at some point soon after that, went back up to the big cathedral area where everybody was still running around in chaos, afraid to go outside. And there were these big wooden doors that kind of had like a ovalish top. There, I don't think they were square at the top, like a reddish brown dark color doors, very tall, maybe 15, 20 feet tall, maybe 10, 15 feet tall, let's say, maybe 12-ish feet tall or something. And so we busted through those doors to the outside. And at this point, the demonic people that had those like hellhounds, the demonic dogs, that's the stage we were at then. So at that point there, I was like, okay, well, we can't stay inside. I just spent like hours running and running around trying to find escape and to escape all these monsters. And by the skin of my teeth, because I was very lucky not to get caught all the times that I did. It came so close every single time. I got fed up with it. I, like many others, we went outside. So I went outside, and I think that's where I saw one of those demonic dogs up close in person. But because there's so many people, like it looked like hundreds, if not thousands of people running around, I wasn't an immediate target going on the outside. But on the inside, it all seemed hopeless. Like if I had remained there any longer, something would have gotten hold of me and killed me. On the outside, people were dying as well. So it was like a hopeless, futile situation. Just the most horrific, demonic, perpetual, nonstop nightmare roller coaster that I've ever experienced. And then, like I said, I woke up from it, turn on the news right away, because that's what I always do every morning. First thing, bam, like a sign. First thing that the news person says is Pope Francis died last night. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. There has to be a connection here. It cannot be a coincidence that in my entire life, I don't even, off the top of my head, I don't think there's ever been a time where I've had a nightmare dream like this, or to any extent inside of what strongly looks like, well, it definitely was a cathedral. There's no doubt about that. But there's Anglican, there's Catholic, there's not many other style of Christian churches that look like this. Catholic is definitely one of them. And that, like, one of the very final scenes that I so vividly remember, like I said, was at the bottom. This church member, whoever they were, maybe even the Pope, was doing this verbal battle against the demon, trying to rebuke them and exorcise them away and bind them in the name of God and Jesus and whatever else. There's no way that those things transpired while I was asleep and during the same time there's no way it's a coincidence that those things happened at the same time Pope Francis died. There has to be a connection there, right? I never had a dream like this in my life. Like I said, like this, or even in this like cathedral type setting in a nightmare scenario. Never had that. And for that to happen the same night that Pope Francis passed away cannot be a coincidence. Okay? So even though I'm not Catholic, I'm not here to judge Pope Francis or Catholics or Catholicism. I'm not going to do that. Jesus taught us not to judge others, lest we be judged. But a lot of things have been going through my head, just considering all possibilities. Was this, the most directly obvious contender is that there was a demonic attack that actually happened that caused Pope Francis to pass away, right? So that's an obvious contender, right? It has to be. That's the most obvious thing. Without passing judgment on Catholicism, so to keep it universal and neutral and in the middle, I'm not going to be pompous and say that this demonic attack happened because Catholicism is wrong and heretical and all this and that there, although I do have my own differing Christian theological views. I'm not going to sit here and cast judgment at a time of mourning like this for all the Catholics around the world. I have nothing against Pope Francis. I'm not going to judge him. I'm not going to judge him based on his theology. Nothing like that there. I'm sure that he was a man of God and sought to do well for God and in Jesus and all of this. So I'm not going to cast any type of negativity on the Pope or Catholicism at all, to be respectful and to also be cautious for myself. But it made me wonder, like, what if, I'm not saying there is, but what if, God was helping the Catholics and the Pope, even though Pope Francis ended up passing away. Maybe one thing I consider is, what if, God was it, because there's two different scenarios that could happen here. A negative person could say, oh, it's because they're wrong, they're heretical, that this demonic attack happened and blah, blah, blah. Or you could say that this demonic attack happened because they are heralding the theological truth. Now, I don't believe Catholicism, but at the end of the day, God is in control of things, and only God can tell us what is absolutely right and wrong. So it's a difficult position for me to talk about this and to analyze what it could be and this and that there without casting any form of judgment. But I'm trying not to cast any form of judgment. So looking neutrally, looking at what the contenders are, is Pope Francis may have passed away because there was a demonic attack on his life from possibly Satan himself. That's a contender. Okay, no judgment being cast there. The second scenario might be that in the case that Catholicism is wrong and perhaps offends God, that this is just something happening spiritually behind the scenes. I don't know. It could also be vouching for Catholicism here. Like I said, God's in control. Only God can say what is right or wrong. Maybe Catholicism does have it right, and this demonic attack happened not because they're wrong, but because they are following God the right way. So there's different scenarios here. And a fourth possible scenario is that I got a glimpse of hell. Like, if there is a hell, well, which I believe, but I mean, if there is a hell, it would probably be like this. I mean, this is probably worse than what most people would think hell would be like. I mean, you might picture hell as, you're stuck in this boring place, burning torment for eternity. Different people have different ideas of what hell involves. But this here was definitely a very terrifying penultimate example of what hell could be. Uh, just nonstop, perpetual roller coaster of adrenaline, anxiety, trying to run away, escape, and it just never relents. Like, just wave after wave, different types of demons. That that is like a whole nother level of hell. Like, I've had nightmarish dreams before where, like, you're stuck in a haunted house and there's like demonic spirits or ghosts coming after you, and that's horrifying and terrifying. But just the nature of this dream was just a roller coaster, just non-stop churning, 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 just no easing up for anybody. um, I really hope hell isn't like that. So I got lots of things to consider, but what I think is logically most obvious is that there has to be a connection in some way between this dream and Pope Francis passing away. There had to be, and I'm sure even the Catholics might agree that Pope Francis may have passed away because of a demonic attack. I mean, it was just Easter. He was just speaking at Easter and taking part in, to some degree, the Easter services. That was just yesterday. So, I mean, this happened at a poignant time on the church calendar as well. So the day after Easter, the Pope passes away. So God, I guess, blessed the Pope to be able to survive and enjoy this final Easter of his. Um, so I'm sure even Catholics would say it's possible, because none of the Catholics want the Pope to pass away. You know what I mean? I didn't want the Pope to pass away. I got nothing against him, right? I'm sure that they might even agree a demonic attack may have caused his demise, especially at such a poignant time. Um, but only God knows. But all I can say is that I hope that this was not a glimpse of what hell is like, because that's just like a whole nother level of terror that even I never really envisioned hell being like. I really hope it's not. If hell is like that, that's just far greater motivation for me and for everybody to get yourself right with God and stop sinning now, because Jesus Lord, if that's what hell is like, I wouldn't wish that. I was saying that this morning. I don't wish this on anybody. Like, even a severely evil person. Well, some people are particularly evil and may deserve it. But I'm just saying, for, like, generally speaking, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I wouldn't wish this on even a very bad person. Like, what I went through was supremely horrific. So much death everywhere. Just absolutely ridiculous. Um, and finally, I'll just throw it in there. I mean, what if, I don't want it to be, again, this would be terrible, but what if this is something that's going to happen in the end of days, like when the pit is opened? Because we know that when the pit is opened, you have all these hordes and legions of demonic creatures that come out with the fallen angels, to slay like 1/3 of mankind. Like, maybe this is a scene from that. But at the end of the day, I think the strongest indicator is that near final scene with that door and the whoever it was, that holy type person inside there rebuking that mega demon. That there shows me a very strong connection to Pope Francis's passing. So God is the judge. I'm not cast any judgment on Pope Francis. I'm not going to say if I think he's good or bad, or if he was correct in his beliefs or wrong in his beliefs. I'm not going to cast any type of judgment on him like that. It's up to God, because God is the judge. But what we should do is pray for everybody, whether they're good, bad, right, or wrong. So we should all pray that Pope Francis didn't have to go through anything demonic like that, and that he doesn't have to be propelled into any type of hellish situation after he passed, like what I saw. I mean, even if, I'm just saying, I'm not casting judgment here, even if Catholicism was wrong and God is angry, hypothetically, what if, at the Pope for perpetuating a false doctrine, I wouldn't even wish this hellish scenario upon him, right? But again, I am not the judge, right? If God does ordain something like that for whoever, who am I to say don't ordain that God, right? That's trying to make myself look better than God, like my opinion's better. All I can say is that, we should all pray inside that, bless Pope Francis, like we should say for everybody, whether they're right or wrong, good or bad. We should always be positive towards everybody. Jesus came to save the sinners. We shouldn't cast judgment and all of that. But I personally, I wouldn't want this to happen to Pope Francis. I wouldn't want him to go through this. But I think what it probably was, if I had to take a guess, was that I was in the spiritual realm during this dream. I believe that's where dreams take place, anyways, but definitely more so evident with this one. But I think I was translated into the spiritual realm and witnessing a demonic attack that was taking place last night. This is what I feel was happening. So, in the physical world, people may not have seen any of these things happening. But if they were in the spiritual realm, they would have seen these things happening. That's the theory that I'm leaning towards right now. And that culminates with the fact that this mega demon, whether Satan or whoever, some archdemon, was battling against this holy person in that lower sanctum area. So I think that's what I'm feeling like. I'm thinking that God put me into the spiritual realm to see this demonic attack that was taking place, and this demonic attack would result in, little did I know, but upon waking would result in Pope Francis passing away. So I don't know what the dream means. All I can do is try to analyze and think. But I don't want to have a dream like this ever again. I feel bad because I've told people, even you there, that I enjoy having scary dreams because sometimes they're fun. Like I have dreams where we have to, escape from monsters or whatever it is, or fight against monsters, and it's sometimes fun. First times I had them, they weren't fun, but over the course of my life, I have them now and then, and because I have experience with them, it's a little bit fun in a strange way. Um, but this dream here last night was not, like, there is no degree where I would say that this was exciting or fun. Like, this was not fun. This was like, if I didn't put a all effort to escape, I wouldn't be here. Like, I would have been ripped apart by the demons or something. So it is just horrific. I mean, there's so many people around in chaos and so many people being attacked and destroyed, to put it politely, that it was just everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Like one of the craziest scenes, like I said, was where the plants came to life, or like the ornamental plants came to life, because there were like people like climbing up the walls to escape what was on the floor, on the ground, and then these vines will start growing out and grabbing them, and oh my gosh, man, like there is just no escape absolutely anywhere. Just absolutely crazy. So yeah, so anyways, and at the end of the day, even if, again, I'm not here to cast judgment, but I'm only saying this to be positive towards Pope Francis and Catholicism, but even if Catholicism isn't the right way to God, even if Pope Francis, was the head of something that wasn't doing the right teaching, just saying, what, even if a what if hypothetical scenario, I still think that there's spark of good in everybody, to each their own. But I don't think Pope Francis is an evil person. Even if, hypothetically, he is theologically wrong with Catholicism, even if, I don't think Pope Francis was an evil person. You know what I mean? I don't think that the members of Catholicism are evil. I don't think they deserve demonic attacks. I mean, I would like to say to God, like, I don't think anybody, unless an actual evil demonic person, I don't think anybody would deserve the type of demonic wrath like I had in my dream. So I would like to say, even though I personally don't agree with Catholicism, I would like to say that I don't think that this demonic attack happened to the scene, the people, the setting, or even the Pope Francis in real life. I don't think any of this happened because they're evil. Okay, so like I said, even though I don't agree with Catholicism, I'm vouching for them here on this one positive point, that I don't think he was evil. I don't think he deserves a demonic treatment like this. And if he if he passed away because of a demonic attack. That doesn't mean you're an evil person. Demonic attacks happen to good people. Jesus had to go up against Satan in temptation. So I don't know. It's just an absolutely terrifying dream. So there's got to be something to it. I don't know what it is, but there's got to be something to it. There's definitely a connection there. But anyways, that's it for this video here. I'll be making some more videos, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure that deep down inside, Pope Francis was a very good person who loved God, loved Jesus, meant well, believed what he believed. Like I said, I'm not going to judge his beliefs, and I would like to say to God that I don't think he deserved this type of demonic evil. And for all I know, maybe it was Pope Francis himself down in that holy room, that sanctum, rebuking the devil. I mean, it may have been him. It could have been, I mean, vouching for Pope Francis here, he could have been the one that I heard having that battle against the devil down in that room. Doesn't mean that Pope Francis is a loser, like he's not the victor because he passed away in real life. No, right? I'm not going to demonize Pope Francis like that. I wouldn't do that, and I shouldn't do that. Nobody should do that. But it could have been, but vouching for Pope Francis, he could have been the one rebuking the devil there. And to vouch for Pope Francis further, he, in his rebuking against that mega demon down in the sanctum, he may have helped save everybody else in the rest of the cathedral and church, right? Because that mega demon, for whatever reason, was down in that special secluded holy room, and he was going one-on-one with that church figure. And it obviously wasn't a physical fight, because what human being could physically go up against a mega demon or Satan himself? I mean, you couldn't. You'd be destroyed instantly, right? But it was by the level of spiritual power that church individual had that they were rebuking and holding him back. And it wasn't like they're having a debate or an argument. It was like you're witnessing an exorcism. That was like the energy and the vibe. Like the demonic entity was doing his form of attack, and this figure, maybe Pope Francis, was rebuking it in like the name of God and Christ and with all the special language and everything, and keeping it at bay. It was like a battle like that. So maybe it was Pope Francis, and maybe Pope Francis, before he passed, faced off against Satan, and maybe in doing so, he spared all the people up, on the upper levels. Maybe he spared everybody else from something worse that was going to happen. Just throwing that out there. I could definitely believe something like that, even if it wasn't the Pope himself down in that room. Somebody there was doing God's work at fighting this demon. They weren't losing. That's the important part. I did not witness or hear the mega demon destroy that person. The very fact that mega demon was a far bigger and worse demon, more powerful demon than anything else that had been attacking everybody for hours. This was the mega demon down there, like the head honcho. The very fact that the human person, whoever was standing there rebuking them and hadn't perished is evidence that they had spiritual power from God. They are being protected by God. So whoever it was, they were the hero, you could say, in the situation. Definitely heroic, because I was too cowardly. I was too scared to even look through that little door window to see inside the room to see what was going on. That's how terrified I was. And I spent the entire night running and running and running away like a little coward wimp from all the demons. I basically had no choice. But whoever was doing that rebuking was a hero in this situation. And whoever they were, that's a severe hero on a Christ-like level, to face off against the mega demon face to face in a relatively small room, and to actually put up a good fight against them. So, yeah. Anyways, that was a crazy dream. Yeah, maybe it was Abaddon. That's true. That's another type of mega demon. And I know that in Catholicism, that there's always this rumor that their holy people have like a deep spiritual knowledge of like the spiritual realm and all these other unseen things. Maybe there really was this type of spiritual battle going on, and last night. So who is going to be the next pope as well? I mean, but the other crazy thing is I thought to myself, like I was saying earlier, last thing I'll say is that during the dream, it is evident that this was a massive old style cathedral. No doubt in that. Definitely along the lines of what Vatican City or something like that, definitely. And I thought to myself, should I go look up pictures of that Vatican City and this and that and see if it was the same place? And I thought, nah, it'll take a long time to look around through photos, and who cares, because the dream was what it was, right? But I asked AI real quick because I wasn't sure offhand. I said, can people visit the Vatican City and how many people are usually there? Answer was yes, there's frequently thousands of visitors to Vatican City. And I wasn't even sure what was in the Vatican, right? I've seen pictures generally, but there's St. Peter's Basilica, and I can't remember what the other one was called. Everybody else knows a big famous name. So there isn't just one building there. There's multiple buildings. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to pick one to check out pictures for briefly, I picked that St. Peter's Basilica and checked it out. And on the inside of that basilica looked very, very similar to the place I was in my dream. Like, very, very similar. I can't say, shake God's hand and say, oh, that was the place, but it was very, very, very similar to what I saw. The big grand halls, the ornate structure to it, spiral stone staircases leading downwards, all that matches. So it could very well have been in the Vatican, that dream last night. I mean, when you look at the odds, I mean, you had Pope Francis pass away, and you had that dream taking place at the same time. Its logic shows you it's most likely probably was the Vatican. I mean, why would it be some other random cathedral somewhere in the world, just ironically taking place at the same time as Pope Francis passing away? So it probably was in the Vatican City. So, anyways, just food for thought, but a warning to everybody. I mean, if this is what hell is like, you better reform. I mean, more than ever before, you better reform, because Jesus, Lord, I do not want to be like, I don't want to die, get judged by God as unworthy, and get tossed into some hell like that, and for it to be like that nonstop. Like, it's another thing to be stuck in a very hot, burning, fiery place, and it's boring and tormenting, but to be chased around by waves of demons, one after the other, just incessantly, nonstop, that is just a whole nother crazy, psychotic level of torment. Um, so let's all hope and pray that hell isn't that bad and hell isn't like that. But only God could say. And let's also hope and pray that the earth doesn't turn out to be like that when the pit is opened. We can only hope, even though it kind of sounds like it will, based on what Revelation 9 says. And let's all hope the best for Pope Francis and everybody else involved, and whoever the souls of these people were in the dream, the victims who succumbed and the ones who survived, like myself. Let's all hope and pray for their souls as well, because only God knows the true spiritual reason behind this dream and what it means. But I'll try to think about it further today. If there's anything else that comes back to my memory, anything in particular that might help me to identify something or piece the puzzle together. But I really had to relay this dream. So, anyways, folks, take care and God bless. And Almighty God, you're the judge, but please bless Pope Francis. Please be with him. Please forgive him for his sins. And I'll leave it in God's hands. That's all I could say. Yeah. Yeah, I think that as well. But good Lord, man. I mean, this was terrifying. Like, some of the demons looked like legit, straight up horror movie demons. But there's just so many of them, and so many people, and just so much going on all around that it was hard to look at and remember what the first batches of the demons looked like. But I can't forget, like, right now, the last thing I'll say, the level of realism was stunning, because inside this great cathedral with huge tall ceilings, like 80 or 100 feet tall or whatever, just massive tall ceilings, everything's old stonework, very ornate. There were tables, like, where in Catholic churches you have like the sacrament cups, like very beautiful gold or silver ornate cups, and there's all these like sacred type objects and everything everywhere, just so intricate. And I remember in this one scene, like looking around, and there's people running around everywhere. I think it was when the vines started to come out of the walls to attack people. I was just looking down, and the level of detail was incredible. Rugs, curtains, these ornate cups and chalices and this and that there on these like marble tables, and the rows of the wooden pews, and it is just so detailed. Like, I don't believe, and I always say this, there is no way that the human mind can just randomly come up with a dream hallucination out of the blue, that's complete nonsense. I do not believe that the human mind is capable of that. It is impossible. And to perpetuate it for what felt like hours, just the level of realism, detail, and accuracy for hours and hours and hours, just incessantly running around constantly different places. I mean, I was running around in this one building and other places, even on the outside at the end, like I said, everywhere that I went, there were so many places and rooms and sections and hallways and stairs, everywhere that I went, so much, like so many places. There's so much detail. Like, that is not something the mind is capable of just producing like a random hallucination during a dream. They had to be real on some spiritual level. It had to be real. So, anyways, let's hope and pray that this does not happen to the earth. Good Lord, let's hope that this does not happen to the earth. I don't want it to happen in any way, even if it happened in the spiritual realm. But good Lord, that's all I can say. But anyways, take care, folks, and God bless. See you all later.